To Jewish Voice, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Jonathan Bernis, and I'm joined by someone who I'm sure all of you will recognize right away. You probably know him best from his commercials for My Pillow, but you may not know that he's also a Christian living out his faith every day, just like you and I. Mike, we're so glad to have you at Jewish Voice. Welcome.
I'm honored to be here.
I want to say my wife and I are fans. We have landed on the Blue Label.
Right
pillow.
on. You're looking good. I knew you would.
Sleeping well, but we really appreciate you. You have a great story. I want to begin by this. There's so many people watching right now that are so discouraged. Some are in despair. We get letters all the time. They don't know what's ahead. They don't know what tomorrow brings.
Right.
You have an answer for them.
Well, you know, I've said before, people don't look, for God. They don't look to God. They don't look for until something bad happens or until things are bad. I was with a guy and he's last year and he said, it would take the Great Depression to bring people back to God. And I said, no, we have something better than the Great Depression. They had God. They were praying for, food and shelter. Well, now we have addiction, and then we have this pandemic. We have all these things that happen. All these things is a gateway for hope. And where's that hope? The hope is Jesus. So I look at it as an opportunity. We have an opportunity in history for the greatest revival ever.
Amen.
I absolutely
Amen.
believe that.
We sure do. Well, let me just wind back to your story.
Mm-hmm.
You have an amazing story. I really can relate to it. I'll tell you some specifics later. I'll leave it to you, but just give us a thumbnail sketch of your story.
Yeah,
God really had a call on your life, and you really hit. Bottom.
Absolutely. Well, my story goes back to when I was a kid, and at 7 years old, my parents divorced, and back when divorces weren't common, and I was put into a new school, and I was the only kid from a broken family, and I believe that, addictions and things, if you don't have the foundation of God early on, or at least some seeds planted, they manifest into addictions where you get false courage. I had a thing where I either didn't talk to people or I would show up. I climbed out of a moving bus window and say, hey, watch me do this, and jumped, and just things. I had all kinds of things happen to me. But at our 5-year reunion, class reunion, this is in my book, we got there and all of them had graduated from college. They were, their careers were all started. I had dropped out of college in the first quarter, and they're all talking about these things. They had started families, and I was just hurting inside. Well, I started telling about what I had done. I owed the mafia money for football bets. They came to break my arms. I fell asleep on a motorcycle, crashed it, going skydiving, and my parachute didn't open all in the same day. So you had these things, and they took over the reunion. Well, I got home that night and laying in bed, and I had this deep sadness. I wanted what they had, I wanted what they had, this, what I considered that's where my happiness would be. And I was handed that on a gal, it was the perfect marriage, and we raised a family. But before that, I got introduced to cocaine, and it was a very functioning addict. Then I could talk to people. I didn't have it was a false courage. You had these, these pains that block pain. It was just, basically a functioning addict. I think people get into a fallacy where, an addict is someone in the streets homeless. No, it doesn't matter how many forks you eat with, whether it's 0 to 4 forks, everybody can be affected by addiction.
That's amazing. So you could go on with your life and still be addicted to drugs, and you were able to mask it.
Yeah, absolutely. And say, any kind of addiction, there's functioning addicts across the board. And it goes back to wounds and trauma, fatherless, and, the fatherless, not having, a father figure, even if a father's there, but he's really not there, and I think so many things happen in childhood, but trauma too. You have our veterans that get traumatized, and so that's what manifests to addictions. And if you don't have, that's why secular treatment. You go into secular treatment, that's why they don't work.
Mike, did you think you were fine through this? Like, did you learn how to maintain a lifestyle with drug addiction? Mm-hmm. Did you have this nagging feeling something's really wrong, I've got to deal with? Or were you kind of, this was okay?
I would tell my friends, I knew I had a bigger calling, and I would tell my friends, we'd be out doing drugs, drinking or whatever after the bars would close, and I'd be telling them about Revelation I read in the Bible when I was in jail, and they would quit and find Jesus, and I'm going, what am I saying? I'm losing friends, and it got to be, what really changed then in the early 2000s, I got into crack cocaine. For me, I couldn't, it was very hard to function on crack cocaine. It's a different drug than cocaine.
Yeah, that's where you cross the line.
Yeah,
Mike,
right.
so let me, I've got to go back to this because this is so key. You knew that God had a call on your life.
Absolutely.
And you were pushing away from that. You were pushing God back.
And when it got into crack cocaine, at about the same time I invented my pillow in the early 2000s, 2004, well, then you had these two parallel tracks. I was very good at, as good as I could be at hiding the addiction, but it's very hard. But one thing, and then over here I had a parallel track of my pillow going on, but through all this I ended up getting a divorce. 20-year marriage. I had so much betrayal happen. And then I even had drug dealers in 2008 do an intervention. I had been up for days and they do an intervention and they go, if you need to, they come out of the room. I was downtown Minneapolis. I come out, I go, what are you guys doing here? There's all three of them, these biggest dealers. And they go, you've been up for days and you're going to bed, or we're not selling you anymore.
They conspired against, by the way, this is amazing. I heard this. They conspired against you not to sell you drugs.
Right. It was like an intervention. I went down to the streets of Minneapolis at 2:30 in the morning. I come back upstairs and the last one sitting there, he had woke back up and he goes, Mike, you've been telling us for years. I was all upset. He goes, you've been telling us for years that this My Pillow is just a platform for God, and you're going to quit all your addictions and come back and help us someday, and we're not going to let you die on us. And he said, give me your phone, and he took a picture. That's what's on the cover of my book, where you have the changes from that day that they did that intervention till now.
Yeah, speaking of the book, we want to get this into people's hands this week. What are the odds? It's a great question. Why do you call it?
What are the odds from crack addict to CEO? And the reason, what are the odds though, comes from in my life. I had if you see in anybody's life, you have a 1 in a million, or something else happens to 1 in a billion, or let's say something happens you can't even explain. When do you add them together and it becomes a miracle? And you say that's a miracle. And for me, I use mathematics to keep, in my faith, you're going, okay, this God's real because this couldn't have happened. So you use mathematics to show that God is real.
Yeah.
And throughout my book, and you get there too, you're looking at, it's not just, by the way, the book's PG-13. There's no swear words in there. I want everybody to know that. I mean, people go, oh, a crack addict wrote it. It's going to be.
But you've come to the clear conclusion, it's a miracle.
Yeah, it really is a miracle. And it's a story of hope. I believe it's going to help millions of people, and bring them to, it's a story of hope. And everybody knows, for me to come from a crack addict to where I am now, I mean, that's impossible. Let's just face it. It's impossible.
The odds are too great.
God.
Many of you that are watching need hope. I can't think of a better thing to get into your hands, or maybe it's a loved one. Maybe it's a grandchild, a brother, a sister, a friend. What are the odds? This is a story of hope, and I really want to get it into your hands today. For your support, we want to get this out to you as our way of saying thank you and sowing into your life. We also have a beautiful keychain, Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem. We really encourage you in every program. It says they will prosper that love thee. So if you want to prosper, Mike, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Absolutely.
And I want to encourage you to become a monthly Shalom partner. You talk about hope. There are Jewish people living in remote areas of the world, Holocaust survivors that we're reaching out to. We're, through your help, providing dentures to Holocaust survivors that aren't able to eat meat. We're clean water to Jewish communities and their neighbors in Ethiopia and Zimbabwe, and they've been hit by COVID. So I want to encourage you, pick up the phone, call now, become a Shalom partner. We have a beautiful Afghan throw we'll also send you as our way of saying thank you. You'll keep warm over the winter months, but this is a critical time. As Mike said, this is the greatest opportunity in history, perhaps, to get the gospel out. There's going to be a great
Absolutely. The biggest revival ever. I truly believe that. This is the opportunity. It starts with Israel.
I do too. So now, don't wait till tomorrow. Pick up the phone, call, get involved. Welcome back. Hey, before Mike and I continue our conversation, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for supporting Jewish Voice, and especially for those of you who are monthly Shalom partners. You're truly making a difference in the lives of so many people, Jewish people and their neighbors that are in desperate need, Holocaust survivors. We could not do this without you. It would be impossible. So thank you. Mike, I want to jump for a minute. We want to come back to your testimony, but you're a lover of Israel. I saw a picture of you being baptized in the Jordan by my good friend Jonathan Kahn. Sid is also a close friend, Sid Roth.
I went over there with him too, both of them.
Both of them told me. Where did that come from? Why are you a lover of Israel?
Well, when I went there, the first time was on a trip in the fall of 2015, and I'd never been there before. And I get over there, and for me, first and foremost, I felt it was a feeling I've never had ever. And it was all this, I told you before that mathematics, I would always use these little miracles in my own life that Jesus and God exists. Well, you get over to Israel and you have physical proof. I mean, I'm looking at these Dead Sea Scrolls and I'm looking at this and here's where Jesus walked, and it became so real to me. I think everyone, you get to the wall and you're praying on there where millions have prayed, and it just. And I especially had an experience on the Sea of Galilee, and just sees that kind of planted, led up to me getting completely surrendered, to do a complete surrender, which wasn't until February 18, 2017. But that's one of the pieces that I needed to physically be over there.
The realization this can't be, the odds are too great. This is
the
truly
odds
a miracle.
are too great.
Mark Twain reached the same conclusion.
Right, yeah.
He came back from Israel and said the miracle of Israel and the survival of the Jewish people is against all odds.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a God.
And then if you really, you start, reading it from the Bible, those who bless Israel are blessed; those who curse it are cursed. I mean, I myself do just my business. We planted olive trees over at the Golan Heights and the Mount of Olives, and I, everything I bless Israel, I do get blessed with my company and myself. And that's not, I do it because I know I'm supposed to do it, but I also, it's true. I do get blessed because of it.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And so this is end time stuff too. Israel, this is end times. I mean, we have to get behind Israel. And what a great president we had that did more for Israel than any president ever, is my mind,
They adore Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
They've named train stations, streets. I mean, look at what he did after 25 years of postponing the move to Jerusalem of our embassy.
Right.
He finally had the guts, and I believe it was a God thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he moved that embassy, recognized the Golan Heights, the West Bank. He is a beloved man in Israel.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if he's following Bible prophecy intentionally, but he's sure getting it right. He's sure been getting it right.
Well, you can even look at that. I mean, everyone knows God chose Donald Trump to be our leader, and like you say, is he really following this? But it is prophecy. It is prophesized in the and it's for myself. Once I got to Israel in 2015, I couldn't get enough of it. Like I say, I went back, got baptized by Jonathan Kahn. I've been over there with Sid Roth, different groups, and every time it's like it's you say, well, you've seen it once. No,
you've just begun. By the way, I've been there over 50 times. You've got to get back there.
It's just amazing.
I want to go back to something that's really keeps every time I hear your testimony. It just keeps striking me that God had his hand on you, and you knew that he was going to raise this business up as a platform.
Right.
Not to be successful for the sake of success or money, but to serve him, to help drug addicts.
Right.
This is an amazing thing. Talk about some of the things going on.
Right, and it's not just, here's the thing with I knew that God was going to provide this platform, and I knew early on that I would be provided a platform. But for what? It was to help addicts in my head, but in reality, it's to help people get to the Lord. It's an evangelical platform.
Yeah.
And I wore my cross on TV for years, and I wasn't saved yet. I hadn't done a full surrender.
That's amazing to me.
I mean,
why? Why?
I even wore it when I'd be in a crack house smoking crack. I just wore it. I wanted to be that person, I guess. If I want to get somewhere, I would sit and tell my friends, about reading the Bibles in jail, like I said before. And I'm trying to convince myself, and it took a lot. I met my gal Kendra in the summer of 2014, and I seen something in her that I didn't have, and I wanted that.
Yeah.
And then miracles started happening to me, things that the odds are just astronomical. I mean, the spring of 15, I had a dream I would be in a room with Donald Trump, and I'm going, what? That's weird, in an office. And a month later, he runs for president. Then I go to Israel. Then I end up at the national the National Prayer Breakfast, and I get picked out of 12 people to pray in a room with Ben Carson when he was still running for office. And I'm going, why am I getting picked? All these things started to be put into place by God, and we ended up becoming great friends, Ben Carson and I. But also I had a dream of meeting the president or meet Donald Trump
back in 2015 before he ever ran,
and he reached out to me to meet him, and that meeting came to fruition on August 15, 2016. I meet him for half hour. Then if anyone see me on TV, the first time I'm ever in the White House, I'm sitting next to him. I'm going, who's sitting here? The president is. We're on national TV, and all my ex-crack friends are going, what is this crack addict doing on TV next to the president? He always told us, Jesus is real, because this is impossible. So this led up to February 18, 2017. I went into this retreat thing. It's called Operation Restore Warrior. Even though I'm not a veteran, these guys God told them, we need to bring him in. And I got in there. I went in there with hope, and I came out there with a full surrender. And I'm going. And about 2 months later, I spoke to 50,000 people. Here's a guy that couldn't talk. And led him in prayer.
That's when you completely surrendered your life to the Lord.
Completely surrendered. And it was such a peaceful feeling. It was like, I don't have anything to worry about now. That's on God.
Finally it happened.
Weight lifted off my shoulder of all those, him chasing me, but me also being, I don't know if it was encourageable. I was, here I am. He kept saying, here I am. And I'm going, show me more.
My God so clearly has had his hand on you. What are the odds of it all?
Yeah.
They're too great. It's a miracle.
Yes. Well, it really is. And, I think with the story, it's going to give so many people hope. And it's not just about addiction. There's also entrepreneurship in there. But the whole thing of the book is, against all odds, God followed me the whole time, chased me. He was always there for me. He said, here I am, here I am, here I am. But I want to, in the book, what you're going to see, 14 near-death experiences. I mean, these are just, It's like reading a novel, the best fiction novel you ever read, and you go, "What a minute, this is true." And I mean, there's stuff in the book that I couldn't even put in there because it's so out there but everything too that's in there, I have pictures and stuff. I kept stuff. It's like God had me keep stuff all my life that validates that this really happened, that this really happened, that this really happened. But one of the things too, one of my miracles that I see, the last thing I ever thought that I would be talking, that my voice would be, to go out and evangelize for, that was the platform all along to be able to, that would be my calling. Well, here's a kid, when I was a kid, my parents divorced when I was 7, I put into a school where I was the only kid from a broken family, and that manifested into fear of rejection. Do I fit in? And, finally, all these addictions that come in to mask that pain and give me false courage. But I think it's so common out there, the fatherlessness. And when I quit everything overnight and got freed of the addictions, that was different than when I did a full surrender to Jesus. And people say, I got to be careful there and say, it was a miracle, God. I never had the desire again for the drugs. But 2 months later, I went to a faith-based treatment center at our church. And I thought, it was different. I got in there and they said, we don't care how much you did or whatever. They said, well, tell us about your father. And I'm going, what do you care about my father? I said, he's great. I said, I come from a divorced family. But they started going back and finding these wounds that I had. And, I think I believe that stuff that happens in childhood, I believe can manifest to addiction or Jesus.
Mike, your story, you may have different details, but your story is a story everyone can relate to.
Everyone.
We all go through we all have to go through life, and there's wounds and pains in life,
right.
And the Lord wants you to have abundant life. He really does. And so this is a book of hope. What are the odds? We want to get it into your hands this week. It's our way of saying thank you for partnering with us. And I really want to invite you, become a Shalom partner. There are Jewish people and neighbors that need clean water, Holocaust survivors that need dental care and food right now during COVID. So you can get involved. Please pick up the phone and call, and we'll get Mike's book right out to you. What are the odds? God is watching. He cares. He loves you. And you need to get time in the Word, because no weapon formed against you will prosper. You need to get that into your heart. Mike, I'm going to ask you to just join me in prayer, and we're going to agree together right now. Lord, we thank you that you're a God who is very much alive. It's about a relationship with you, and we pray for people that have no hope, Lord, that you would give them hope right now. We pray for financial needs to be met, for people that need healing to be healed. Lord, for those that have written in saying my family member or friend has COVID, we speak healing to you in the name above every name, the name of Yeshua, Jesus, by whose wounds you are healed.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, if there's anyone that you see that has the same wounds I have, which we all have wounds that we don't even know where the pain comes from or where it's come from. We ask that you restore their hearts, Lord, and I ask, my prayers that everyone out there can just get on their knees and surrender to you, Jesus, and that you give them, that my story will give them hope, and that everyone's story, they all know people out there, anyone out there that they know their hope match they see, and they see that most of the time, all the time, that answer is you, Jesus. And I just pray that everyone out there can just surrender to Jesus, and we're in the biggest